I'm headed out this morning on what's essentially a walk around the neighborhood. As is so often the case this time of year, the end of March is going through a period of fits and starts. Can't decide whether we're in winter or spring. This morning's sunshine isn't going to last long. Clouds will be moving in this afternoon, so I thought I'd get in the opportunity to walk while the ground was still bare. I've always felt very fortunate to be able to call this place home. I grew up about 18 miles as the crow flies from where I'm walking in my backyard today. Never thought I'd be back. As a kid growing up in Vermont, I thought I was going to leave at 18 years old and pretty much never return. I don't have to get far up the hill before the winter snows are still lying fairly thick on the ground, but it won't be long. Spring's on its way. At this point, my route takes me off-road. For the remainder of this walk, I'll be through field and forest. A lot of it on the old forest roads that existed either to serve the 19th century population that farmed up these parts, or in today's times for logging activities. This forest here was logged relatively recently, probably 20-30 years ago. Huffing and puffing here, getting close to the top of the hill. This tree here is one of the grand old trees that escaped the sawyer's cut with the last logging. Those are often left because they are not of commercial quality, or in many cases to facilitate reseeding. Even though this was a place that I longed to leave as a teenager, I am so fortunate to have ended up back here. As a teen, growing up in the rural poverty that was so common for this area, I couldn't wait to get out. I saw opportunity in other places. Eventually made it back, and now what always strikes me is when I walk to the top of the hill behind my house, I'm looking out at the same mountain that I looked out at from my bedroom window growing up. I gaze across this meadow, and nowadays all I can think of is there's no place I'd rather be. "150 years ago, this would have all been small farms. About 150 acres apiece was the common size here in Vermont. Along with those farms came the apple trees and the pond. And of course, what New England scene would be complete without the stone? Stone walls just run throughout the woods here, but they're A lot of stones like this one that were cut probably for foundation work. They would drill shallow holes and split them apart. Grown in and mostly forgotten. There's so much history back in these fields and woods that I still need to find out about. Another notable element back here is, or all around these parts, is the apple orchards that were planted somewhere around the beginning of the 20th century, including the orchard next to our barn, which is dated back to probably 1920s, 1930s. This orchard, no doubt, has seen much better days, but it still provides a lot of food for the animals. Interestingly, the deer were pretty much absent from these parts during that early 20th century. It was during the latter part of the 19th century and all of the deforestation and the resultant loss of habitat that the white-tailed deer pretty much disappeared from the landscape. They really didn't start coming back until somewhere not long before I was born. Now, with a lot of the habitat for deer in pretty good shape, we're actually experiencing a population growth that is perhaps unhealthy for the deer. That would be due to loss of the predators. Throughout these woods, there are a lot of intersecting roads. I haven't sorted out which of them are forest roads that were put in place for logging activities or which ones were associated with early Europeans in this area. Probably both. At this point, I think I'll turn back toward the barn. This whole loop through the backyard neighborhood is about 3.5 miles long. This turned out to be a perfect day to get back out here. This is an area we refer to as a park-like setting. It's just big old trees, meadow. Don't know the history. This is what we commonly refer to as the hill behind the house. We can see a vast swath of Vermont spread across the horizon. When the foliage is off the trees, we can see from southern part of the state all the way up to the Canadian border. Okay, now we're headed back downhill, headed for the barn. Hopefully this video will give you a little bit of the context for what the neighborhood looks like up here. My hope is going forward to show you a little more up close what goes on at the homestead, but I figured I'd wait until springtime before starting on that project. For now, I'm just enjoying the forest without the snow, without the leaves. One of the seasons that I enjoy so much here. Through another one of the old orchards that were very much a part of the old hillside farms. Home is in sight. There you have it. Neighborhood walk complete. No place I'd rather be.